This is my PSP 1000 tilt control mod. This is a pretty simple mod where I'm using tilt switches wired up to the left and right D-pad directions in order to control the PSP by tilting it in the required direction. To enable tilt controls, I've repurposed the PSP's hold switch to be the tilt control activation switch. So when I first started this project, I used these ball bearing type tilt switches. Whilst they proved that the concept worked, they had their issues. I found that sometimes the directions wouldn't trigger if I made small or gradual movements, and other times it'd just be stuck on, so these weren't reliable at all. So I have my multimeter here in continuity mode hooked up to the tilt switch, and when I tilt this you should hear the multimeter start to beep. Now that should be a solid beep when this is vertical. As you could hear though, the connection is a little bit flaky. I initially picked ball bearing type switches as I didn't want to have to use these, but what I've had to do is use Mercury based tilt switches. Rather than a ball bearing bridging the contacts and triggering a button press, this uses Mercury, which is a conductive liquid metal. If we test the Mercury switch with a multimeter, you can tell that the connection is a lot more reliable. But additionally, at more shallow angles, we get this bouncing effect, which actually helps to give our tilt control some granularity to add finer movement in games. Now it may be a little bit concerning having glass tubes full of mercury in the back of your handheld, but unless they get damaged it won't cause you any harm. But what I want to do for a final build anyway is surround the tilt switches with epoxy. That way if anything does happen and they do get damaged, the mercury should have no way of escaping. Anyway, let's give some games a go. Temporarily, with the use of a plugin, I've remapped the D-pad to the triggers so I can test LocoRoco. So yeah, as you saw, the tilt controls work pretty well, but they can take a little bit of getting used to. With racing games, I found that it tends to work best with games or vehicles where the steering is a little less sharp or responsive, like the games I've showed off. If the steering is too responsive, like with a motorcycle on MotorStorm, it does make it quite difficult or challenging to steer with tilt controls. Anyway, overall it's a pretty cool mod, but it's not perfect, so I'm not sure I'd necessarily recommend trying it for yourself. With that said though, it was still really good fun to experiment with, and I'll still probably ever play about with it every now and then, even though I'm not really a big fan of tilt controls in general. And of course I am aware that Daytel already made a tilt control accessory for the PSP. In fact, I actually have two, but I've never even gotten around to using them, as far as I know they only work on a couple of the older firmware versions, and also the required install software was designed for Windows XP to 7, so I'm not sure if it'll even be compatible with any of the PCs that I have. But as well as that, the original website for the game profiles is long gone, so I've not even bothered to attempt to use them yet. These ones are also for the PSP 2000, whereas my mod's for the PSP 1000, and yes, a 1000 version of the tilt effects does exist, but it's incredibly rare and hard to get hold of these days. Additionally, I've heard that the tilt effects doesn't work very well either, but who knows. In reality though, I can't imagine it's too much different to use than my mod. I'm considering attempting to make a new version of this mod sometime in the future as well, which will include a real accelerometer and an Arduino for better sensitivity and features, but for now I'm pretty happy with this one. Anyway, that's all I have to say on this one for now, so thanks for watching the video.